In this revision session, we're going to look at question 6, which is the final question for component 3, listening and analysing. Now, once again, if you've missed any of the previous sessions, you can always go back and have a look at them. If you like this format, you can give us a thumbs up and you can subscribe, and we'll try and produce a lot more. So let's have a look at question 6. So once again, there are 6 questions for the whole exam. There are 2 sections, a section A and a section B. So this is part of section B, which is the very final question, and this one is worth 20 marks. So what do you need to know for question 6? So once again, it's going to be an extended open response question. You're going to need to consider the wider musical production context of the question. It's the biggest question in the whole paper, so it's worth 20 marks. I would definitely make notes as you come to this question. I would definitely be thinking in advance before you get to this. So once again, like I said for question 5, I would be tempted to, at the beginning of the exam, after you've written your name on the front page and all the rest of it, is to skip to the end of the page, have a look at the question, read the question, make some simple notes on some scrap paper, and then come back to it. And that way, when you come back to it, 40-50 minutes time, you'll have some notes ready, so you won't go with a completely blank mind into it, which can sometimes help students to overcome some kind of initial problems. So you will need to write clearly and concisely and have a good structure for this particular question. Make sure the examiner can read your handwriting. I say this to my students all the time. If you're writing essays and the examiner can't read it, they're not going to think to themselves, oh, he must have meant that or she must have meant that. They're just not going to award you the mark. Okay, so just be very, very aware of that. You need to write clearly. Yeah, I think that's all we need to say about that. So the next thing is you will be awarded marks from assessment objectives 3 and assessment objectives 4. Okay, so it's almost exactly the same kind of structure as question 5, and we'll go over that. So what we have then, so this is the question from the sample paper, and obviously it's not going to be exactly the same for you in your paper, but we are looking at this wider musical impact, and that can include production impact as well. Okay, so how technology has been used to impact the musical effect, or how it's been used to improve the way music is being listened to, something like that. So for this one, you're going to listen to Britney Spears' Oops, I Did It Again. And the question is, this track was produced in 1999. Evaluate the impact that digital audio workstation technology has had on vocal production, in this track, and the wider impact DAW technology has had on vocal production since 1999. Once again, it's worth 20 marks. So let's look at what this is asking us. It's saying, right, you're focusing in on digital audio workstation. So the first thing I would be thinking to myself is, okay, what came before that? So what came before that is tape. What kind of things can you do with tape? What kind of things can you do with DAWs that is a lot more effective, a lot easier, a lot more cost effective to make music? Then you have to look at the actual question. So it's saying vocal production. So it wants you to hone in on things that can be done specifically with vocal production, or what's actually happening in this track. For this one, because it says the wider impact, you can reference things that are not on the track, but it also wants you to reference things that are on the track. It will be looking at your knowledge and understanding. So once again, for these assessment objectives, so AO3, you have to demonstrate and apply knowledge and understanding of music technology. It's only worth 5 marks, so they're only looking at very simple responses at this point. Okay, so it just says here, as a bullet point, you can just identify and outline any kind of production techniques or musical techniques from the question topic. So just a simple thing. So I've got from the mark scheme, once again, this question and the mark scheme can be found on the Edexcel website in their sample specification. So for AO3, the responses that you could have got for this particular question included copy and paste of vocal edits. And notice it's very short. It's just copy and paste of vocal edits. That's it. That will get you 1 mark out of the 5. The next one, on the track you heard reversing of vocals, that will get you 1 mark. Extended use of vocal overdubs, that will get you 1 mark. the use of auto-tune on vocals, it will get you 1 mark. So you notice how simple it is to get those particular marks for AO3. Now, that's the 5 marks out of the 20. Now we need to concentrate on getting the extra 15. So this is the deeper knowledge now, the deeper understanding. So for AO4, use analytical and appraising skills to make evaluative and critical judgments about the use of music technology. So what I've said here is make suitable reference and explain. So there's the key point there. You've made your reference like you did in AO3, but now you're going to explain how it's impacted the wider audience, if you like, or how it's impacted this particular song. Your understanding of the production and musical techniques for this particular question. So what I've got written here, and I've referenced AO3 and AO4 here. So in AO3 we wrote copy and paste of vocal edits, but for AO4, to take that a bit further, you would write something like, in this track, copying and pasting has been used on the vocal hums and breath noises as an effect and for rhythmical elements, and that would get you that AO4. So for the next one in AO3, we wrote something like reversing of vocals. And to take that further, we'd reference a song. So we'd say reversing vocal breaths as a transitional effect, e.g. this has been used at 1 minute and 13 seconds in the song. So we've specifically referenced the song and we can get that mark. So the next one, extensive use of vocal overdubs. So for AO4 we could write something like vocal editing is a lot faster, so therefore production time and associated costs can be lower. And we've taken that a bit further, and that's looking at the wider impact of DAWs. And then finally, in AO3 we wrote auto-tune on vocals. So for the AO4 we'd write something like vocal editing can be so precise that pitch can be corrected. Vocal editing can be so precise that pitch can be edited. And that's quite nice. And once again, that can be the wider scope, but if you can hear that pitch has been corrected on the song and you reference the point in the song, you can obviously get the mark that way as well. So, I mean, that's kind of the area that we're looking at, and you really do have to practice answering these questions and kind of going through this process. So, preparing for this question, the first thing I would do is reference and discuss various production and musical techniques. So, use a song as a reference point. So, in your musical collection, find a song, listen to it, and I would definitely say listen to it with a peer, so you can actually say out loud to them what you're hearing, and they can say no, that's rubbish, or they can say yeah, actually I just heard that, and then they can do the same for you, and you can really build up your techniques together. And this could be a really good kind of teamwork exercise. You work with a partner, you both listen to the same track at exactly the same time, you both make notes as you go along, so just bullet point out some notes and then you reference that back. So there are lots of techniques that you can look at. So I've just listed 4 here just to get you going for today's revision session. So once again, we can look at vocal production. So listen to one of your favourite songs from this decade and look at the production techniques and say how production techniques have evolved since the 1960s or something like that. You could obviously then look at drum production, you could look at guitar production, and you could look at sampling as a musical device. So that will give you loads and loads to think about, loads and loads to talk about. If you've got any questions or you want something more specific, give us a shout and comment down below. If you want to see more of these videos, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and it'd be great to hear from you. Now, in the next lesson, we're going to start looking at component 4. So we're going to go through the same process of going through each and every question and just breaking it down for you guys, and obviously doing the overview as well. Once we've done those ones, we're then going to start being a bit more specific and going over some of the question types and giving you guys some really good revision tips and techniques. So there's still loads and loads to come. I hope you're enjoying what we're doing, and I'll see you in the next video.